Okay, it's starting now. Okay, thank you, Mr. Sav Dhaliwal, for joining me for this interview. You are a member of City Council for many years, and today we are going to talk about the motion which was passed on April 24th about caste-based discrimination. If you can just elaborate, talk briefly to our audience about it, how it will affect community and residents of Burnaby, that would be great.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about the motion that City of Burnaby just passed. City of Burnaby prides itself on being a progressive city. We celebrate diversity in our city, and we recognize that diversity is a strength for our city and for our nation and for the province, etc. So we have an existing equity policy, which had listed a number of different categories where we were using to alert our staff, particularly in position of authority, who are in various positions, to make sure that they're cognizant, they're aware that the city expects ourselves, all of us, all council included, to respect the citizens and making sure that in all our dealings with every citizen, regardless of where they come from or what their religion, what their race, what their marital status is, what their gender is, and a few other things, and of course the heritage and racial background, all those are listed. We did that to make sure that that everyone, every city citizen has access to city space, job opportunities, if you're working there, promotions, or the recipient of a program, or other things that the city holds, that everyone has equal access and I'll have the opportunity to participate. I want to make sure that there's never any bullying, harassment, or discrimination based on the categories that I spoke. One of the things that we just added is caste, that wasn't there before. And this just to augment our awareness, everyone's who works for the city, to make sure that they also are cognizant of that possible discrimination that may occur. And we know it has happened recently in Lower Mainland, where Human Rights Tribunal had just gone through its own analysis, investigation, and followed through, and ultimately found people were guilty of creating, of at least using a language that's offensive, and that is what we wanted to avoid, to make sure that there is no any doubt on anybody's mind that discrimination in any form of any kind can't be tolerated in the city. And so I think this is to make sure that people who live here, who are seeking support and services from the city, they feel they're welcomed. They have the same opportunity like anyone else, regardless of their background. That's the purpose of it, and that's why we brought it forward.
So which tribunal case are you talking about?
The tribunal case was here in the Lower Mainland, where a person at their workplace was.
Do you know the religion and background of those people from India?
Well, it's immaterial. It does not matter what their religion or background is.
But I was listening to your council meeting, and you were describing basically like Hindu caste system, like both categories.
I said yes, there are.
Yeah.
In the Hindu.
So why didn't you mention this incident, which has nothing to do with Hindus? It was basically Punjab.
No, it isn't. It is not. But in the Indian social structure, there is caste, including Hindus, Sikhs, and others as well, regardless of who they are.
Okay, but it wasn't mentioned that it's Hindu, Sikhs,
Well,
Christian.
no, absolutely.
Yeah. So would you like to correct yourself and say that
well, no,
this problem belongs to all religions?
it wasn't specifically aimed at Hindus. I
Okay.
recognize that. No, it should be in every, regardless of religion. And I recognize the Sikh people, Sikh have done that. Sikh continue to do that. And absolutely, that's got nothing to do with it. Regardless of who does to whom, it is something that we want to avoid.
Okay, great. The next question is, I was looking at the members of city council, and you are the only person of Indian background who
Yes,
understand caste better than anyone else.
right.
How did the other city council member and mayor reach to this conclusion? They don't come from South Asian backgrounds. Did you help them educate this issue? What kind of studies, books, data council member had to go through to pass this motion?
Yes, regardless of their understanding, everyone is very focused on what we call is equality, regardless of what religious faith or race you come from. You don't have to know a whole lot about what the origin of this one is. We are focused on making sure that no one is demeaned, no one is harassed, no one is put down because of their background. No slurs are used, regardless who you are. So people, this is a human rights issue. This is a equality issue. A Canadian Charter allows that. Universal Declaration of Human Rights understands that. So doesn't really matter. But when a caste anyone has to look it up anywhere, see what caste system is. It's not that hard to find what background caste system
you
is.
said that caste is being practiced in Canada and North America. So how did you come to that conclusion? What kind of data
it's practiced because we just had a case. Who was
so one case in million, and you passed a motion about it.
You understand that, Sushil? One is far too many for me. I don't know what.
No, I understand, but I'm saying in order to so basically, then anyone can pass anything. Then
absolutely
for any community. So city
absolutely.
City council.
If anyone has been grieved, that's enough for me. I don't have to wait 500 people.
I know, but Canadian
do you have a standard?
Took care of that. Canadian law took care of that. What made you that city should take onus on it? That Canadian law is not strong enough to deal with.
We are a progressive city, Sushil.
Yes,
and for everyone matters to us.
Okay. Did you consult with stakeholders such as Hindu temples, Sikh temples, mosque?
No,
they are also no stakeholders in the city.
Sushil, there are no stakeholders when it comes to people's right. It's individual right that's being violated.
So taxpayer people who are involved will be affected. They should not be affected.
Taxpayer has given. We already have an equity policy that was created to make sure there is no.
But we live in a democracy. There should be a dialogue. If you are making laws or motion and you are not even talking to people, right? 40,000 people visit Burnaby temple every week, devotees. Thousands of people go to Sikh temple, and then there are Indian Muslims who it's a public consultation basically. So I'm surprised that it wasn't done.
Minority rights don't need consultation. Minority rights are automatically.
These are minorities. Sikhs in Hindus and Muslims are minority in Canada.
No, minority. That's exactly the point. That the minority rights are just like racial, just like we are in terms of as a racial minority, we are on a religious minority, and similarly every one of those one. I certainly didn't consult. The council didn't consult when we brought in the equity policy. It's the right thing to do. My moral compass tells me that I'm going to be fair, and it is that when somebody is discriminated, we're going to put forward a policy which council would debate and pass.
So, but you are a representative, and whenever you make these laws can be used against certain people as well, right? Do you?
No, wait a minute. Why certain people? Would you give that idea? Certain people. It's the perpetrator, regardless of who that is. is the one
And
that's
how will you justify there are thousands of caste, right, in India? And I don't
there
even
are
know.
I
Can you tell
yeah,
my caste?
no,
If
it doesn't matter. Why it doesn't matter to what caste I or you are. Makes no difference. But
then
when
why are you
someone,
passing this law if caste doesn't matter?
no, it doesn't matter. What it is when you try to humiliate
Caste
someone.
matter or not? First, tell me this. Does caste matter or not?
Well, in this case, we do not care what the caste people
If
are.
you
But
do
we
not care,
want,
then why are you passing this motion? We have the laws in country. We have
a
the
caste.
law about discrimination. So basically, caste
So
does matter then.
no, a caste matter in a sense when people use the caste to put people down. That's when it matters. That's when
yes.
because caste is nothing more than an identification of a group. But
Yeah.
when one person from a group tries to put somebody down, that's when this policy comes in.
But
That's all it is.
What if most of the people they don't believe in caste? People like me, I don't believe in caste. I don't know what my caste
that's
is.
fine. But you certainly won't call somebody because they happen to be so-called the low cost or untouchable, whatever. You call
So you
them
think
untouchable.
untouchability is being practiced in Canada right now?
Well, you just saw the sign. No, not untouchability, but you certainly saw the slur, which makes them to be untouchable. I hope you have read that.
Yes, I did. And Canadian law took care of that.
Yes, then you certainly would also appreciate, well, that's what this is about. You are not, regardless of who you are, regardless of what you consider what your caste is, you can, if you want to. That's not the purpose of this. You can create whatever religion you think you belong to or not belong to. It doesn't matter. That's not state's purpose. Our purpose of the policy, Sushil, is clearly, regardless of that, you cannot put down, you cannot come around and harass, you cannot use derogatory words against someone. And that's what this stops. It doesn't matter who does it.
Okay, so since this motion has been passed, how will you implement the policy framework and training?
Well, that's a more important point. So what we wanted to do is make sure the staff is then now trained in terms of really saying, what does this mean? If someone really is in a position of authority, do they let anyone mind themselves?
And there will be taxpayers' money obviously spent on this, right?
Consciously or unconsciously, think of other people in the terms of, well, this person is is a person of color. Yeah. Well, maybe they're inferior, or this person is I don't know, they're not married, maybe they're not a family people. He comes from Sikh religion, maybe they're just not as smart as the rest. All those things are
that's not caste. That's
discrimination. No, I'm talking about discriminatory things, and caste category is discriminatory in the same sense when you start to say, well, your group that you belong to isn't as good as mine. That's what that's saying.
Okay, so me as a resident of Burnaby and being part of our media organization, right? It's taxpayers' money you're being spent on training.
Yeah, well, that's where money is spent for training people the right to make.
So there are like thousands of caste, millions of names. How do you plan to do that?
It doesn't
matter.
Who are
the organization who are going to help you with it?
I think you're missing the point. What I'm telling you, I'm repeating myself, and I hope you hear about this. It makes no difference to what caste and which caste and how. If you insinuated or you implied that you're better than that, and therefore that is what we're talking. You're better than you.
Taxpayers' money. I'm asking you a simple question. That taxpayers' money is being spent on this training. Who are the people who are going to train? Are you bring people from?
Well, no,
are you going to bring people from India, South Asia?
All of our employees are made aware of the equity policy. Every one of us, including the elected officials.
That's not the answer to my question, sir. I am asking about training of this caste-based discrimination.
It's just an awareness
issue.
It's awareness that
huge complex. Indian government had to spend decades and decades. And even from British time, the data was being taken for hundreds of years. So how city of Burnaby, who has homelessness crisis, rent crisis, unaffordability, how much money and training are you going to spend on these issues? We have thousands of caste in India.
Yes. It doesn't really matter once again,
So
2,000,
homelessness or
100,000,
unaffordability
as
doesn't
long
matter.
as you, Sushil, came in as an
But
employee.
it's taxpayers' money, sir. It's money. Money is not free.
Well, taxpayers have have elected the officials to make sure that this is a fair policy for everyone. People who comes in.
But you didn't do public consultation. Who are these
Because it is,
taxpayers?
well, we have the equity policy already.
You did not. Okay, you are talking about people. Now you clearly said you did not do public consultation.
No,
We are
we
talking
didn't.
about taxpayers' money. So we are going round and round. So it feels like
Yes, absolutely. I told you earlier, no consultation was done because we have an equity policy. We did the same what we did for.
Okay, so taxpayers' money will be spent on training.
Absolutely. Anything that's needed to protect human rights, anything people to individual rights is important, just as important as homelessness, just as important in housing crisis, just as important as any other bylaw, sir. Yes.
Okay, great. I'll move on to the next question. So you are celebrating B.R. Ambedkar Day on 14th of April, correct?
It was already done,
Day.
yes. Yeah, we declared that as a equality day in Burnaby, yes.
Okay. B.R. Ambedkar had a lot of controversial views about Muslim community and Islam. Lot of Muslims, people I know in Burnaby, when they got to know, they reached out to us and they said, like, this man wasn't perfect. He was obviously Islamophobe. He said some mean things about our attire, be it burqa, about, our loyalty towards our country, that, we think religion is superior than national duty. And a lot of allegations were made by Baba Sahab Ambedkar in his book. You can find that out. And now the city of Burnaby spending resources and money on the person like that. Muslims are hurt.
Well,
they are saying it's Islamophobia you're spreading right now.
Well, I don't know who's saying that. They're wrong. There's a misunderstanding. There's nothing about that. We're not promoting Ambedkar. We are just basically saying in Burnaby, it's a day of equality. This is a person who was pioneer in terms of really enshrining.
I'm not talking about the great things he did. I'm talking about Islamophobic things he said.
Let me finish. I got only a couple of more minutes.
You have photo of him. You have photo of him in the city.
Yeah. If you're just going to keep interrupting,
I'm not. You have to answer me.
I'm not going to finish.
Okay. Please answer me about Islamophobia thing. That's
it.
So
here's a person. Who was actually appointed as a chair of a constitution committee to write the Constitution of India.
Islamophobic, hateful things.
Just a sec. And yes, there may be allegations, about everyone, you name it, there would be, but a person.
Not allegations. He wrote that.
Fine. What we are promoting, what we are saying is the value of that of what was promoted.
Do you condemn Mr. Ambedkar?
No, I do not. I do not condone. I don't condone or condemn because I don't know the history.
B.R. Ambedkar views on Islam and Muslims.
No, there's no person should be condemning and no person should be really blaming anything. One of the things.
Do you agree with him on what he
said about Muslims? I do not agree with any other person going to be knocking anyone's religions off. I do not agree with that.
Okay, so you don't stand with B.R. Ambedkar on his views on Islam.
All I'm saying is that I respect every religion that I can think of or regardless of what that is. Okay. So what we were talking about, a day of equality in Burnaby.
Yes, but B.R. Ambedkar clearly, he did not treat all the religions as equal, right?
Well, he still
said some mean things about Islam, about Muslims. And I think city of Burnaby should come out.
His dogma of equality still is constitutional in the Constitution of India, and that's what we respect for. So yes, that's the equality we're speaking of. And this is a person who promoted equality. That's exactly what we said.
Sir, see, you are not answering my question. I'm talking only about, I understand he did some great things, right?
Yeah, well, that's good. That's what this is about.
And he gave a lot of people rights, right? Equality, lots of things. But then he wrote some really harsh, mean, hurtful things to Muslims. And when they see the picture of that guy in Burnaby City Council, right? And you are celebrating that guy and not talking about that aspect of B.R. Ambedkar. That is hurtful to people.
Well, as I said, it has not in any way, City Burnaby does not condone anyone, any discriminating anyone. This is basically on what we were promoting. We would want to say that the person, his contribution to the Indian Constitution, which enshrined equality, is worthy of celebration. That's all that says.
Yeah, but what do you have to say to the Muslims of Burnaby?
Yes, anything, and because I certainly respect what Muslims have also done, contributed to it. I go to mosque. I go
in regards to B.R. Ambedkar saying Islamophobic things too.
That's up to anyone, other people to take up the cause. All I'm talking about is basically what's the contribution of this individual that is worthy of celebration? That's exactly what I do. That's what I said, and that's what we promoted. Yeah.
Okay, great. Moving to one thing, I was listening to Burnaby City Council meeting, and you said there were some instances in schools and some areas where caste-based discrimination took place. I would like to know the examples when it happened.
Yes. Well, I said anecdotally. That means there have been some instances where people have said that their children have been discriminated. And that's good enough for me, where people have been said, well, that is not right. If you have said that someone has came around and said, yes, and I take your word for it, that because generally people will do this, they're not going to make up the stuff when people are given some inferiority complex, they're harassed, they're bullied. That's exactly what happens, and if it has happened,
so it is happening in Burnaby, city of Burnaby.
No, it's anecdotally. I said that's what it was, and it was the media. It was talked about, and that's what exactly I stated. I said there are instances where people have found that their children have been bullied, and said that, and that obviously isn't something where I have the names, anything like that. That's all I stated, and for me, that's worrisome, and that's fine. And if that's happening, that's how I said that, anecdotally.
But it could be false as well, like if you are not recording the instance.
No, but certainly yes, it could be false. But Sushil, what the tribunal did, BC Human Rights Tribunal, that's not false.
No, it's not.
Well, that's good enough for me.
Recorded case. But when you're talking about schools in small areas,
good enough.
Then you have to come up with a real example.
One example or one instance is good enough for me.
But you didn't even give me one example in schools.
I did give you human rights.
You said anecdotally, not.
No. I said human rights have charged and people have paid or been charged.
Not in school. That incident.
No. Yeah, the schools was anecdotally, but I told you that the discrimination does exist.
Discrimination definitely exists in each community.
Okay, well, that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to put down a religion, a community, or anything. We're just simply saying, well, stop it. We don't really want that to happening in the city.
Okay, so are you going to have some framework or work to work with schools about caste system? Are you going to?
Well, no, that's not our jurisdiction. You should know that this is only, as I said, aimed at the city staff and city officials and city contractors. That's it.
Okay, great. I think that's the only question. Some of my questions were unanswered, but thanks for giving me your time. And yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much for reaching out.
Yeah.
Okay, take care.